So for a few years now, I've been a big fan of Zion Williamson and the team he has around him in New Orleans. And they were actually one of the reasons I was so excited for this upcoming season. As we all know, the Pelicans were a number one seed in the Western Conference last year, just until Zion injured himself in January, which led him to basically miss the rest of the year, and the Pelicans to tread water and finally get eliminated in the play-in tournament. So this year was basically another chance to see the fully realized version of Zion, and I was quite excited for that. I wasn't originally a fan of Zion when he first entered the league. I thought he was kind of overhyped, but his 2020-21 season, where he scored 27 points and 7 rebounds a game on 61% shooting, made me a believer, and I've been a believer since, despite his constant injuries and his off-the-court drama. So you can imagine I was kind of dissatisfied when he missed most of last year. But the good news is, though, he is healthy this year, and for the first month or so of the regular season, he's shown up. He's been playing most of his games. He sat out a couple back-to-backs. He's actually sitting out a back-to-back as I record this. For the most part, it looks like he's more available, which is great. However, something is off with Zion this year. And I don't mean he's washed or anything, far from that. I just mean that it feels like, well, actually, it doesn't just feel like, he is actually shooting less efficiently than he was in that awesome 60% year that I mentioned, the 2020-21. See, back then, Zion was playing similarly to how he played in college and high school, mostly in the restricted area, at the rim. It made sense that a lot of his field goals and his attempts were in that area, right? He was not taking much, jumpers and such. And of course, being the freak of nature that he is, he was able to get in there with ease, right? We all know that about Zion. However, this year, he's taking less shots in that restricted area. As a matter of fact, data from Zach Cram over at The Ringer shows that he went from a shot location proportion of 85% in the restricted area in 2020 to 61% to start this season, which is a drop of more than 20 percentage points. And that's extremely worrying to me, because as he decreases his shots in the restricted area, he naturally increases them in from floater range, which, as you might expect, he's a lot less efficient at. That same data from Zach Cram shows that his floater shots increased from 8% in 2020 to 37% at the start of the season. And as he takes more of those, we also see that his shooting percentage, his efficiency, has gone way down. Last year and the year before that, before his injury year, he was 65%, which, as we know, it's because of his domination at the basket, in the restricted area. But this year, he's only shooting 54%, which is obviously because he's taking more shots from longer range. And that's where the trouble, I think, lies with the Pelicans. Because this whole time, Zion fans and Pelicans fans have been arguing that healthy Zion is an all-NBA type player. And he still looks kind of like it, but a lot of the argument was focused around his ability to get to the rim and finish with his natural ease, with his natural talent. He has a very athletic game, which pairs extremely well with his size. I'm still always in awe whenever I see him barrel his way to the basket. But the injuries do pile up. That kind of athletic style of play, as we've seen with many point guards, over time it decreases. Now, with Zion, of course, we all knew that eventually he'd slow down, but I always thought that the slowdown would come, 5 or 6 years from now. If this change in his game, if Zion's current proportion of shots at the restricted area is really due to his lower or his fading athleticism, well, that's a big problem, because so much of his game and so much of really the Pelicans' whole team is built around Zion, the all-NBA player. And he's not going to be that if he's not getting to the rim as dominantly as he once was. Now, of course, I'm not saying that this trend is going to stay forever or even the rest of the season. It could just be, Zion feeling out his game a little bit. They do have a lot of injuries on the Pelicans this year. But if that isn't the case and Zion really did just lose some athleticism, then what can we even say? Like, he's, you're moving from the unguardable force of nature Zion to Zion who's pretty good. And to his credit, Zion is averaging 21 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game this year, which is not a bad stat line at all. It's just more really good than awesome, which is what I've grown used to with Zion. And that has me really worried for the future of this Pelicans team. See, being a fan of Zion has also made me kind of a fan of the Pelicans as well. And one of the things that the front office has done really well is build a competent team around Zion. They made the right draft picks like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, for example. They've surrounded him with shooting, like with Jordan Hawkins, their most recent draft pick from the 2023 draft. They even traded for some complementary pieces like Larry Nance, for example, and most notably CJ McCollum, who pairs well with Zion and his sidekick, Brandon Ingram. But none of that matters if Zion isn't the player he was just 2 years ago even. And the thought of that is really disappointing, because I've always maintained that Zion has kind of a reverse LeBron in Cleveland situation, where if you remember, LeBron's original run in Cleveland was basically a huge disappointment from the front office perspective, because they could never surround him with competent players or even a good team. Meanwhile, here Zion is kind of in a reverse situation, where the front office has surrounded him with a competent cast, but he's just been the one who can't fulfill his side of the bargain. And if he doesn't, then really I don't see how the Pelicans are contenders anymore. But, again, I'm talking basically the worst case scenario. Maybe this is a feeling out process for Zion as he returns to NBA play after so long without playing. It's just a frustrating situation, especially for fans like me, because our argument's always been Zion's a wrecking ball when he's healthy. And if Zion's suddenly not a wrecking ball when he's healthy, then it becomes kind of a lost investment for the Pelicans. And obviously I don't want that. I really want success for Zion and the whole team. I really think that this Pelicans team is a great one that's just had a lot of bad luck with injuries. I mean, even this year, they've lost CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Trey Murphy for extended periods of time. And even last year, they had Brandon Ingram losing substantial amounts of time as well. Which again, as a huge LeBron fan, I would have killed for this kind of support from the front office when LeBron had his first stint in Cleveland. So I really want Zion to kind of eventually bring a title to the Pelicans, just to show that small market teams can have success if they're competently built. And to be honest, Denver just did that, so maybe the Pelicans isn't the best example. But you know what I mean. The Pelicans are a bit different than the Nuggets, because as soon as Zion got drafted to the Pelicans, there's been Knicks rumors. Is Zion gonna demand a trade? Is he gonna go to the Knicks or wherever? I want the Pelicans to show that a generational type number one pick, it doesn't have to demand a trade to finally win a ring, right? If your front office is competent enough, no matter which market you're in, they can get the job done and help you finally contend. So those are my feelings on Zion to start the season. I'd love to know what you think, and if my worry is justified in any way. But hopefully Zion returns to his old self real soon, and I'll see you later.